All right, so here we've got, I've redone the set extension exercises using both Mocha and the 3D camera tracking tool. So you can kind of make a choice on what you think might be best for you. Again, each of them have different techniques and capabilities, and I'll kind of go over those here. So I've got this clip again that we did with the castles, and I just kind of put in a rough example right now where we play forward. Now this clip I've done using Mocha, and it does have a minor amount. It's a lot less than the traditional point tracker of the wiggle that we were experiencing kind of with laying that. And that could just be due to the clip itself, having some inherent issues, but we will get to that. I did, however, notice I got a lot better of a track and a lot better of a placement using the 3D tool, using the 3D camera track. So if we watch through this here, it incorporates the motion blur as well, which takes a little bit of time to render out. But in even his sort of handheld camera shake, it does seem to plant those buildings quite a bit better in those places. Now, my coloring and things like that could obviously help make the scene look a little more realistic, but that's something that we would get to in another section. So I'll go over really quickly what I did here. First off, let's just do the Mocha. Traditionally, again, you apply the Mocha tracker, you add Mocha, and it comes up. Now, what I did is I started at the end of the clip and I tracked backwards. So I created this sort of structure over here, and I placed out, the plane surface out here, and I tracked backwards, and until that was starting to kind of go out of frame before any warping was made. And then I created another layer by using the spline add tool, which is here, which is in this drop down. So you have the X-spline tool, and then you have an X-spline with a little plus sign next to it. And that allows you to add splines to your pre-existing spline. So when you have a camera movement like this, you can extend that track if it goes off frame or however, so long as you have an object that is moving at the same velocity at which it's moving. So like in this case, the land, even though in perspective it's not moving at the same velocity, my surface is. So again, here I have these two objects linked, and by doing so, like I said, you come in here and choosing your perspective and shear and things like that. That may be also one thing that would help if I clicked on that perspective. I just did this really quickly to kind of show how this would work by adding those two splines. So again, your layer, then coming here to the X-spline plus, selecting that, and then clicking some points to find a piece that you would track, and that would then create an additional spline that it would link it to that layer. So then I would continue tracking, and I continue tracking that back here. Here's my keyframe, and then it tracked backwards. Now, again, like in one of the other demonstrations, I click on the expand the planar surface to the full frame. So that makes the entire plane the full frame. You hit save, so Control S or whatever it is on Apple, or save project up here in the menu, close out. And the way that I did this, because I felt like it would be a lot easier, is I added a null. So I create a new null object. And then I said I create the tracking data, and it's going to ask me what layer. I select layer 1. It's going to create the tracking data, and then it's going to ask me the corner pin support motion blur. Then I select my null. I apply that, and that's going to create the motion data on that null. So there's the null moving along with it. And then what I would do is I'd come to the last frame over here where I want my buildings placed, and I drop in my buildings, and then I parent that. So here's my buildings with nothing done to it. I parent that to the null, and then you have the buildings moving with that null object. So I think it definitely plants a little bit better than the standard motion tracker. We could probably improve upon that a little bit by using a higher pixel density in Mocha, as well as the perspective shear transform tool. So I think that's something we could also work on there a little bit more. This is just a kind of a quick guide on how that improves that. Now, what I would like to show though here is the 3D camera track. So again, going back to my footage, I've added the 3D camera track. Let me turn off all this stuff right now. And I have all these points. Now, what I did is I created a planar surface over here that I created a 3D camera out of and a null object. And what I'll do is, let me go back here to the camera, 3D camera tracker. Here's my points. So I come in here and I'd select, like, say these 3 points right here, and I create a new, well, let me delete this real quick. And that's the other null. So if I come in here, 3D camera track, let's say I select these 3 points, I right click and create a new null and camera, or a new solid and camera. And you can choose either way how you do this, like in the other tutorials. What I'll do is I'll create a solid and camera real quick, and I'll just show you how that works here. So here I now have my solid. Now the solid, you can use the transform tools here and move it however you see fit without it affecting the animation of that object. And so then you can play this back and you can see that object is moving like it should in the frame. Then you come up here to your PSD, make sure you click on that, alt click, drag that in, and I have my buildings. Now again, I can move them around using the tools here. I can come into scale, shrink it down a little bit, bring them back to where I want them, and now we have a very good track without any, or very limited even at that, a wiggle on those specific spots. So again, looking in really close, you can see a slight pixel shift. And again, the footage here still is compressed, so you know, be aware that footage being compressed can also cause things like this where the tracker has more difficulty. But you can see the amount of pixel shift in this is a lot less. So I feel like that's a pretty good track so far, and obviously working with you know, color correction and a few other things, we could probably get that even a little bit better to make it blend a lot more. But now I feel like that's actually a pretty successful track using 2 different options. So you have Mocha to add in a planar element or track the planar elements and add those set extensions in, or using the 3D camera track tool when you have camera issues like this. And again, remember though, one of the critical things that's going to make your set extensions look even better is working on blending in the colors and making sure your scenes look uniform. So like the clear obvious issue I have in mind is this green grass kind of blending in. It doesn't match, and specifically this one back here, it really doesn't match. So that kind of screams out, hey, this has been added. So that's something that we would need to work on. But that's all for now. I just wanted to show you guys the 2 options you have on clips like this that might enhance a better track, so you have a much firmer plant on adding elements into your scene. All right, for now, guys.